I was 6 months into a deployment when my brother in my unit accidentally sent me a video of him proposing to my wife in our living room. The video came through our group chat around 3 a.m. my time. Devin meant to send it to his girlfriend back home, but mixed up the contacts in his half-awake state after a long patrol. The clip was only 8 seconds long, but it changed everything I thought I knew about my marriage. I watched Devin get down on one knee in front of my wife Kendra in our living room. She was wearing the blue dress I bought her for our anniversary last year. The ring looked expensive, way more than a junior enlisted guy could afford on military pay. But what really got me was how comfortable they both looked in my house. Like they'd done this before, like this was routine. Devin deleted the video from the group chat within minutes, but I'd already saved it to my phone and screenshotted every frame. When I confronted him privately, he seemed genuinely panicked, said it was his cousin's living room, that they just looked similar. But I knew every detail of that room. The scratched coffee table from when we moved in, the crooked picture frame I never fixed, the burn mark on the carpet from when Kendra dropped her curling iron last Christmas. That was definitely my house, my furniture, my wife. I tried calling Kendra immediately but got voicemail. Tried again an hour later, same thing. When she finally called back 6 hours later, her voice sounded strange, nervous, and rushed. She said she'd been sleeping and her phone was charging in the other room, but the timestamp on the video showed it was taken at 2 p.m. her time, middle of the day when she should have been at work. I started paying closer attention to Devin after that. Guy I'd trusted with my life for 8 months suddenly seemed different. He knew things about my hometown he shouldn't know, mentioned restaurants Kendra and I went to, talked about the construction on our street like he'd seen it personally, even knew which grocery store had the best produce. When I asked how he knew that stuff, he always had explanations, said he'd Googled the area, looked it up on Street View, heard me talking about it during downtime, but I never mentioned that construction project to anyone in our unit. The really weird part was how he acted during our weekly calls home. Devin would always find excuses to be nearby when I video chatted with Kendra, said he was homesick and liked hearing American voices, but he'd position himself just out of camera range, and I started noticing Kendra's eyes would flick to where he was standing, like they were having some kind of silent conversation while I was talking. Then I noticed Kendra stopped wearing her wedding ring during our calls. When I asked about it, she said she'd gained weight, and it was too tight, but she looked like she'd actually lost weight. Her face was thinner, and she seemed happier and more energetic than she'd been in months before deployment. I asked Devin's squad leader about his emergency contacts, said I was curious about his family for a care package. The address he'd listed was 3 streets from my house, walking distance. He'd told me he was from Colorado Springs, but his emergency contact lived in my neighborhood in Ohio. Last week, I managed to call Kendra at a random time during her supposed lunch break. She answered quickly, but I could hear a man's voice in the background asking who was calling. When I asked who was there, she said it was just the TV, but I heard footsteps moving away from the phone. Heavy footsteps. Yesterday, I got access to Wi-Fi and logged into our joint bank account to check our finances. There were charges I didn't recognize. Expensive dinners at places we'd never been, a jewelry store purchase for $3,200, hotel bookings in the next city over, all while I'd been deployed overseas, all made on days when Devin had been granted leave for supposed family emergencies back home. And that's when I realized who my wife had really been spending her time with while I was gone.